Good day, family. This is the Talented 10. Financial Coach Jay coming back at you with some more content. I trust that you have been following us and you have been receiving some information that can go and transform your mindset, because everything we talk about is a mindset transformation. When you transform your mind to understanding I'm no longer going to be a part of the consumer culture only, but I'm going to be a great part of the investor culture. When you're investing, because you can't save your way to wealth. You gotta get that money in the market and let it compound for you. Einstein said the eighth greatest wonder of the world is compound interest. It is a wonderful vehicle that we have investing in businesses that you're buying into. We say stocks, but it's really buying it. You're a part owner with the business when you start investing in your 401k plans, in your 403b plans, in your 457 plans, in your Roth IRA, your traditional IRA. Those are funds that are allowing your money to compound while you sleep. Why not get a part of this market? You're buying the products anyway. Most everybody I know, everyone has an Apple phone, pretty much, right? That's part of a business, which is a part of your portfolio when you invest in these funds we're talking about. There's one thing to invest in a single stock like Apple by itself, but when you got it involved with a mutual fund or index fund, it's a portion of the other funds that are also in that index or in that mutual fund. So I harp on index fund investing is because the index funds are once again the same funds that the other managed mutual fund managers are trying to dance in and out of the market with, trying to beat the market. And Warren Buffett already challenged the guys and he said, hey, I'll give you guys, hey, let's put $1 million bet on this, that you cannot beat the index funds, the S&P 500 over a certain period of time. And they backed off after they saw that they weren't going to be able to beat it, because what the managers are doing, they're trying to pick, manage these different stock picks in your mutual fund. Now it's diversified, but they're still trying to dance in and out of the market, when all we got to do is go with like a S&P 500 where you got the top 500 companies in America, and they're doing their thing, but they don't have nobody actively managing it. So that's what's caused the expense ratio and fees to be lower, like 0.04, 0.01. Some I got one that's 0% for expense fees, because no one is actively managing those funds. And this is huge. And then you got the managers, and this is how they make their money. They're charging 1, 2, 3, 4, up to 5% fees just to manage your money, when you can allow the index fund to just do its thing on its own. So I am challenging everyone to check out the index funds when you start investing. Even in your 401k plans, in your Roth IRA plans, you don't have to have someone actively manage when the index is just gonna do its thing on its own. Let me give you a prime example. So I was looking at this sheet, when you go in, we're talking about the 401k. We're going to continue our discussion on the 401k. And like when you start up, you say, okay, well, I got it. I need to invest in myself. The company's going to match me dollar for dollar up to the first 3%, if that's what your company does. And then if I put in maybe 2 more percent, so I put in 5%, they're going to match me above the 3%, 100% match. They're going to match me 50 cents per dollar. So if I put in 4%, they're giving me free money. If I put in 5%, they're going to give me free money of 4%. That's not a bad deal. That's called free money. You can't pass that up. Now let's build up on that. So we got that going. We said, okay, now what they'll do by default is probably put you in a target date fund, which is fine, but their expense ratio or fees are a little bit higher than just a regular index fund. I'm gonna give you a prime example. So I'm looking at this sheet right here, And it's got large cap. It's got bond funds, which we want to steer clear of bonds because they're not doing hardly anything. People say, well, they're safe. Okay, they're safe, but when we talk about the compound growth, 10% versus 2%, and then inflation is 3%, not so much. You got the international funds. You have the they call them the life cycle funds. That's the target date funds that I just mentioned. International funds. You got the emerging market indexes, which they are okay as well, I guess. And then you got the different ones like the small cap, the mid cap. Those are the smaller companies versus the medium-sized companies, but I like to go with the large cap, especially if I can find one that says like a Fidelity 500 index. That means the top 500 companies in the United States. And when one of those, you don't have to worry about it, because if one of those funds they're not doing well and they fall off the top 500, guess what? Another company is there to take its place. So you want to look for that when you go to invest, because it's not enough just to say, okay, I'm going to do 20%, I'm going to do 24% like you suggested, or 25%, and I'm going to roll with that. But now you got to pick the funds inside of that vehicle of the 401k. So if you get thrown into something, you don't know what you're doing, then you can be in a 401k plan, but you're not getting the best bang for the buck. So I always look for an index fund. Like I said, you got the Vanguard 500 index fund. You just want to go over to the column where it says expense fees. Like for instance, Fidelity, this one right here says large cap. It's under the large cap funds, and it says Fidelity 500 index. And you look all the way over to the right on this particular sheet, and it's got 0.02. That's the expense fees that you'll be. You got to pay something, but that's expense fees. 0.02. That's the lowest on this sheet. These other ones that are managed, there's some of them are 0.44%, 0.41%, 0.23%, 0.62%. Those are the ones that is stopping the growth on your money. So if I'm paying 0.04 versus 0.44 or 1% or 2% or 3% up to 5%, that's eating up on my compound growth. So I want you all, before you go and invest, you go and do the research and ask your provider what funds are in that 401k plan. And you can choose the ones you want. Once again, by default, if you don't say anything, they're going to put you in a target date fund, and that's based off the time that they think you're going to retire around 65 years old. So like this one says, and this one's not bad. It's an S&P target date, and it's 2055. So you figure, that's the person younger than me. That's about the year that they will retire. When you see the 2035 or something like that, that's probably around my age group. They're projecting you to retire at the age of 65. So when you see that number on there, that's how you can tell. And it says target date, and the target date for that year that they think you're going to retire around 65 years old, because they think that you'll probably start drawing Social Security around that time as well. But their fees are even 0.17 versus the Fidelity 500 index fund 0.02. So we're looking at the best bang for the buck. All of these companies are pretty much, they got the Apple's, the Apple stock in their portfolio percentage. Then they got percentage of all these different ones. But once again, when you got the ones that are managed, they're the ones that they're going to get their commission. They don't tell you this, but you got to be smarter than the average bear, and you got to say, hey, let me go and investigate more. And then you start looking at like how long have the fund been in inception? When was the inception date? And then you can go back and it give you the history. Once again, past performance is not indicative of future performance. So you got to go back and you got to value those companies that are inside of the vehicle of the 401k that are in those funds. Do you have Apple? How much asset under management do you have in Apple? How much? What's the percentage in your index fund? Because we're talking index funds. That's what I'm steering you to. I'm just giving you entertainment of stuff that I've been doing. I'm not trying to give you an advice, but I'm just sharing with you what to look for, and then you make a concrete decision on what you want to do and say, hey, if I got $1 million in my portfolio now and I'm ready to start drawing out, and I'm going to get charged something, so I get charged 0.02 versus 1%, 2%, or 3%, you tell me which one you want to do. You can do the math yourself. Just multiply it out. I would rather pay 0.02% versus 1%, 2%, 3%, or 0.44% like we just read, 0.47%, 0.41%. I want to get the best bang for my buck, because as long as that money is in your account and you're getting charged this expense fee, that's how much money is going outside of your account. So it's almost a no-brainer, but if you don't know better, you won't do better. When I first started my 401k plan here in 2016, when I learned about it, because I never knew about it, I was in the military and we didn't have 401k plans. They were just the TSP when I was getting ready to retire. The TSP, that's the thrift savings plans. That's like a 401k for government employees. They were just coming on board from military retirees. And so I was getting out, so I was like, it's no use. I was like a couple of months before I was getting ready to retire after 22 years of service to this great nation, active duty. So when I started working at the bus company here in 2016, I was on a field trip, and I was just like, let me read through this handbook. We had transported the football team to their game, and I was just sitting there, got all these hours that I'm waiting to be able to transport them back after the game. So I said, let me get some knowledge, some information. So I started reading. Reading is fundamental. I'm gonna tell you, if you want to hire somebody, put it in writing. Put it in writing. Our people don't read. My people don't read. There's a lot of people don't read, but our black people, we got to do better. Stuff is available to everybody. You just got to read it. So I was reading this handbook, and I was like, man, what? And then I saw the company match. The up to the first 3% it was called they'll match you dollar for dollar, and then the next 2%. Up to the next 2%, 50 cents per dollar. So if I put in 5%, they'll put in 4%. Now you can go in my company, you can go from 0 to 50% that you can put into your 401k. But once again, once you get up to that 4% of what they're contributing, they're not going to contribute anything else. And that's fine. I can get 4% of free money. That's better than nothing. So I said, okay. So I started with 15% because I had heard some financial advisors on TV and said, there's something, if you can do 15%. And I was like, cool. So I started doing it. And the reason why I started doing this was because my first grandbaby was born in 2017. And I said, I want to get up to $20,000 into this 401k plan for her. And I've calculated it out, 10% growth, and I was like, oh, she can be a millionaire by the time she's in her, I think it was 30s or whatever it was. So I reached that goal in a couple of years, because I said, in 2019, I said, I'm going up from 15%. I did that for a couple of years, and then I went up to 50% of what my income was. Remember, I'm still getting a 4% match from the company. So long story short, 5 grandbabies later, so I just kept it going, and I said, if I want 20,000 for each of them, and we're going to call this the legacy fund from Paw. Did that, reached that goal, and now it's almost double the 100,000, because 20 each, 5 grandkids, and I don't have to put another dime, and these babies will be multimillionaires in their 30s. And then if they leave it in there, the oldest she'll be about 82, 83, 84. And then that, if they don't touch any of that money, 10% compound, I think I did 12% compound growth, those grandbabies will be billionaires. Just because Paw decided to say, I'm going to take advantage of the system that's available to me, because I read and I got it the best bang for the buck. I ended up doing the funds. I didn't know. It was like whatever the default was, and then when I started reading, I then switched it over to an index fund, Vanguard index fund. And I'm telling you, I am winning, and those grandbabies are winning because of Papa's decision. I'll talk to you later.